Well, that was quite a last episode we saw. Jerome left some bodies behind. How do you think they're going to be explained? Or will they be explained at this point?
I think their nephew, he was pretty smart to leave Tanase, to leave her, as
A
a person
parting
to wrap
gift.
that up. Who knows what she's gonna say? Yeah, he gave her definitely a nice departing gift. A dead man in her house and a few outside her building. But we'll see. I think this season finale is about to be crazy.
Well, Manboy had some parting words for Jerome as well as the others. Did Jerome take any of that to heart, or he knew it was the last the last attempt at a dying man to get in some digs?
I love the fact that Manboy in classic Manboy fashion, had a soliloquy at the end. Since the first I think since the 301 episode 301 of last season, he's been quite the chatty fellow. So it was interesting. I think for Unc, I've seen his type before. He was a necessary evil to deal with. So I think we're much better off as a crew to have him taken care of. Honestly,
With Manboy then out of the
we
way.
wiped
Wait,
we wiped out we wiped out an entire family tree over there on that
I
side.
know, right? Going into the finale, then, what can you tease us in store for Jerome and the boys?
I mean, things have hit the fan, with what the journalist reporter Irene has done. She, in a sense, has dropped napalm, you know, on the city, on the country. You got to think how that information is reverberating throughout the entire country, probably international implications. So when it comes to South Central, when it comes to us, it's a time now to make sure that you count your losses and that you protect what's most important. I think we see us doing that as far as just the immediate danger, but I think now you're going to see how that happens with how we have to protect ourselves also with the government and all of the other war infractions coming at us.
It's season 4. Have you had much of a say then in how Jerome has continued to develop as a character over the years?
What's great about our writing staff is that each year they always check in with us and let us know, exactly the themes and the way that the story will develop. But this is very much so is a story that from its inception, I think when the writers were able to get together, they know where this is going. So as far as the quirks, of course, we bring in our own je ne sais quoi as characters, but pretty much where this story is going was mapped out long before we probably were even hired as actors. So it's kind of cool to be able to play within the lines, I would say.
Jerome's taken out Manboy. He's taken out Khadijah. What won't he do for the Franklin?
What won't he do for the Franklin? I like that. You know, family bonds are really important. And I think that we've seen that Jerome has been a loyalist the entire way. Um, but check out this season finale. I don't want to give any spoilers. Check out the season finale. It's going to be interesting. And we did see, I mean, he's loyal to Franklin, but we did see them have to get their flex on in episode 309, So I'm sorry, in 409. So I don't know if that's quite over. I think we'll see. The audience will see, and even how that carries on in the future seasons.
This is an intense storyline, and it's got to stick with you a little bit after you finish shooting. I mean, all those bodies count on you. Don't just maybe they don't weigh on Jerome mentally or physically, but do they weigh on Amin a little bit? Maybe how do you shake off a long day?
Well, it was really an intense shooting schedule, and we were in the middle of a pandemic. So what's interesting is when you have things that oftentimes with characters that you play, it's not just what you're doing, you know, on screen or showing up to set to do. It's also what's going on in your life. You know, I have a family, and, you know, we're going through a pandemic, and we were shooting this, and we had a lot of different protocols to shoot safely, to keep our crew safe, to keep the rest of our cast safe. So there was so many things that were going on while shooting this. And, you know, we just lost our Helmer John last year. So it was just it was just a very full set, you know, we just emotionally. And of course, you need a way to be able to unpack, a way to be able to release the work of that year, and go back to, you know, more civilian life, as one would say. So I think, you know, there's always a mental health component to artists, all of us, to be able to do our job effectively, be able to give that suspension of disbelief, but also have ways of taking it off. So I have my own, you know, R&R. I have my own ways of self-care that make sure that I'm in the right, that I'm not walking around thinking I got a jerry curl on and you know, and taking out the ops. You feel me? So, but it was a really fun character to play, but there's also a circle of truth around the subject matter, and that it is pretty heavy subject matter. So mental health is very important.
I think this season fully brought it. It was packed with action and intensity. You've got to have some favorite episodes you worked on this season, if not 409.
Right? 409.
409, just 409.
409 is special. I really care for 407 as well. I think 407 is a nice setup episode. Just the cinematography of 407. I mean, this season has been so crazy, you know. So I guess I have my favorites in the beginning. I thought it was very special. The second episode where Jerome, you know, first caught a body, and sort of, I think we've watched him with sort of a PTSD of dealing with that incident. And then the taking of Louis. Those are some of the standout things. Louis, and I think that was 405, where we went to I think it was 405 when we went to Little Rock. It was either 405 or 406. But even though that episode, you know, just the connection of being, you know, first of all, you know, being a fish out of water, and then getting the information from Louis, which in some ways tore us apart, for us to come together, you know, after her being almost assassinated. You know, it's just a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there. Episode wise, I would probably go with 407 though.
I mean, you touched on it a bit though, just right now, actually, that Jerome had a bit of PTSD in the beginning, but you know, 409, he's just doing it, you know, he's just taking people out. Is that something he's compartmentalized in himself? He's obviously not worked through it, but have they talked to you a little bit about that aspect of Jerome?
Yeah, coming into the season, I knew that this would be a different Jerome than the kind of jovial, sometimes comic relief, you know, hesitant, you know, really about his shop and his woman, and, you know, kind of keep me out of this drug game. I feel like, you know, Louis being a pawn that was almost taken off the board, or a queen actually being taken off the board. I think it meant a lot to him. And you never know. I'm not saying that he was bloodthirsty, but I feel like once you've already taken, you kind of had that initiating step that he had taken a life. And he's been around taking lives before, even if we look at the season finale of the first season. So it's not like his hands hadn't been dirty and he hadn't had to take care of bodies. But I think there's something about you know, taking that step of killing, and then realizing that that isn't a viable option for you when things go wrong. You know, that you know that you're looking for blood. And I just think that if you look at the trajectory of the seasons and this particular character, you can see that it kind of goes back to that first saying of, you know, there's nothing but trouble that's going to come with this brick. You know, that sage advice that he had for his nephew, we can see how him not even taking his own advice is, you know, what a tangled web.
Going into the finale, what are some items we should all have on hand? Tissues, popcorn for going, or are we going to need someone's arm to hold on to? Are we going to need to, like, how are we going to, what are some must need items for this finale coming up?
I think a bottle of wine. I think a nice edible. Yeah, it's gonna be. You're gonna need some relaxing after this, but in a way, I think the season finale will leave a lot of people, you know, anticipating another season. A lot of people are going to be frustrated. A lot of people will feel there will be remorse. They'll be, you know, it's going to be heart-wrenching, and yeah, there will be sacrifices made. You know, human sacrifice, the biggest cost.
The biggest of all, yes. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to weigh in on the latest Snowfall controversy of Where They Fall versus The Wire. That is the latest.
That's the latest.
The latest on social media. Everybody wants to know, where do you feel about where Snowfall versus The Wire lands?
Man, I was a shorty coming up while The Wire was being aired, and I love that series. You know, lucky enough to have HBO, and I didn't quite understand all the ramifications. I didn't even understand the Wire, you know, why it was called The Wire at the time. Such a classic, you know, legendary property, and I feel that for Snowfall to be in the same sentence, in the same breath, comparison, is, you know, I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic about that. I go back to, you know, the late great John Singleton, our you know, our EP, you know, our heart, the heart of this show. He told us when we were making it that this show would be really popular and that it would take people a while to really appreciate what we were really doing here, and the people, the families, like we were mentioning earlier, PTSD, that these are stories that happen to real people at a period of time, and that we're still dealing with the ramifications of that. And when I look at The Wire, there's a lot of comparison in that part. So that's the part that I take as the true comparison. As far as, you know, kind of the little slick talk online and all of that, I think that they're two different things, and that we should be able to appreciate them as two pieces that in some ways give a real sobering tale of things that have actually happened in our country, you know, in our society, in our communities. So I love The Wire. I'm hoping people who love Snowfall, the more we can talk about them together, not in a comparative way, but in a way of that, wow, these are things that have actually happened in our country, and things that hopefully we do not, that we don't repeat.
And Baltimore and Chicago are two different entities to begin with. But I want to say, you know,
Baltimore, DC. I mean, Baltimore. What crack did to Baltimore is it's ridiculous. I went to Howard University, and I often would go to Baltimore, and it's such a lovely city with beautiful people, and I just feel like The Wire was so iconic and amazing. And if we can do anything for the people here in South Central telling this story, then we're ecstatic about doing it.
I think The Wire walked so that Snowfall could run, as they say on.
Is that how they saying it?
Yeah.
How they saying it this week? You know, we'll see. I don't think that'll ever go away, but it just lets us know, like I said, from, I look at it from in the sense of John Singleton. If you tell me, that I'm doing, that the work we're doing is some sort of way compared or should be compared to The Wire, I would say it's nonsense. But when I look at it from this, in the sense of what David Simon and those guys did, and then what, John Singleton has done, I think that there's a lot. There's some synergy there. There's something there to appreciate.
Was there anything we didn't touch on yet about what's to come here Wednesday that you want to make sure we share with our readers?
I would just like to, for your readers to, if they are enjoying Snowfall at all, to look back through John Singleton's filmography and check out, from Boys in the Hood to The Higher Learnings to the Rosewoods, the Baby Boys. Just look at the way that he was able to take Black culture and put a tight lens on it, and put a focus and blow out the things that we usually see in contemporary art, but put a focus on Black bodies and humanity in our neighborhoods, in our community, society. And so I would implore the readers or listeners to check out John Singleton's legacy.
And what I loved about his work is that most of his focuses were people of color. To have so many people of color in a movie and a TV series as main characters really sets the standard for what we hope is the future, what we expect from our TV series, things like that. There has to be a change in that. And I love that he started with it, and I'm seeing him blossom with Black Lightning and all different other series that are coming on.
One of our directors, actually the director of 409, he did 308 and actually was nominated last year for NAACP award. But Carl Seaton, the director Carl Seaton, handpicked by John Singleton. And just this week, I text Carl and said, thank you for having the capacity, for having the scope to put more than just one man of color in a tight focus. Because often when we do tell the stories of African Americans, we usually only have time to show the humanity of one character, We only have time to show the close-up, to show that the specificity of what one person of color is feeling. So we usually get our experience sort of in this monolithic way. But even in that episode, he was able to put the tight lens, the focus, the micro information that you get from people that have various different perspectives in this larger story. And that's that's just an ode to John. That's the type of filmmaking that he gave to tell more of a complete story about our humanity, So that's really important to me. And I feel great that with filmmakers and showrunners and producers that still keep that core, that
focus of people of color.
Yeah. Thank you.
With that in mind, then what would you like to say to people who are fans and supporters of you and the incredible work you do here on Snowfall?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We have an amazing season finale. Hopefully I'll be back for next year. You guys got to check in to see. And and you can follow me on all social media platforms, Amin Joseph.